Expanse, the eternal pantheons blossom, scars, shadows where why loom, pulses, sickly heart. Pulses, what if its bloom was not creation, burial power seethed. The eternal pantheons blossom, scars, shadows where why loom, Shaarj was torn free, a wound, a garden. Sickly heart, power seethed, unbound. The sundering did not shatter the world, the well shattered the world. The pantheons strike on Shaarj, recorded in Chronicle Vol 1. This is no defeat, this is a wound that became a continent. The well of eternity was never a font of magic. It was a shackle, a titan-crafted cage for the old gods. When it broke, the prison bled. Shaarj's tear did not corrupt the well unmade the world. Its collapse was not Azshara's sin. It was the old god's first breath since the dawn of chains. The well was a scar, not a monument, not a marvel, just a scar. Carved by highborn hands, guided by the whispers of things older than stars, they called it a prison. They called it a gift, they called it the world soul. But the old gods bled through its walls, their hunger seeping into the stones like ink into parchment. The Black Empire rose on this corruption, its spires gnarled with void-touched roots, its people carving hymns into the flesh of the planet itself. Before the Titans walked, before the pantheons stirred, Azeroth was a wound in the cosmos. Void meteorites fell like ash from a dying fire, each one a seed of madness. Thun and Zoth, why Shar, and why engranames that were not names coiled beneath the earth, their dreams birthing chasms where light could not touch. The highborn did not enslave the old gods, they became their vessels. Their priests drank from the well's poisoned depths, their skin crystallizing into armor that cracked with the weight of ancient sins. The pantheon came not to save, but to silence. Their war against the Black Empire was a scalpel cutting through rot. Yet the well remained, a failed chain, a ticking clock. The sundering was not Azshara's doing. It was the moment the old gods remembered how to breathe. When the well shattered, it was not a crime, it was an exorcism. The land split, not from hubris, but from liberation. And in the silence after the collapse, the old gods laughed. Their laughter echoed through the shattered continents, through the bones of dead gods, through the marrow of Azeroth itself. What does a world do when its chains are broken? It burns, it bleeds, it begins again. The pantheon did not slay the old gods, they bound them. In the marrow of Azeroth's flesh, they wove chains of starlight and shadow. And Zoth Thun, Yogg-Saron name a wound. Their prisons were not tombs, they were engines. The well of eternity was the first, a conduit, a scar. Its waters did not shimmer with magic, they bled with containment. Azshara saw the well as salvation, her kingdom drowned. Her people screamed, the old gods whispered through the tides, offering power to those who would unmake the pantheon's work. She struck the pact not with malice, with hunger. The well's glow darkened, its currents turned to poison. The sky above Dalaran cracked like a shattered mirror. The pantheon's chains groaned. Zaval, high priest of the highborn, refused. He saw the wells collapse as inevitable. Warned Azshara the pact would not save her, she drowned him in her own desperation. His body became a monument, his warning a forgotten echo. The sundering did not begin with Azshara's fall. It began when the old god's chains slipped. The well's rupture was not corruption, it was liberation. Tides of raw void surged. Mountains split, the seas heaved, Azeroth's crust bled. The pantheon, distracted by their dying works, could not stop it. What does a world do when its architects abandon it? It fractures, it forgets. It becomes a battlefield of wills older than time. The well's ruins still pulse, a heartbeat, a reminder. The old gods are not prisoners anymore, they are patience, and patience in the dark is the hungriest weapon of all. The veil of eternal blossoms is no garden, a scar, a purpling gash torn by Shaarj's extraction. The Titans did not plant this wound, they sutured it. The well of eternity was their engine, not a font of magic. A vault, a leveraged chain, the world soul was its key, a living lock to pin the old gods beneath the earth's throat. But the lever snapped, the chain rusted, the lock, a heart, beat too hard. The well's collapse was not betrayal. It was inevitability, a 0-second rupture when the old god's breath shattered the world soul's ribs. Kalimdor split not from a queen's hubris but a world's convulsion. The sundering was the planet's scream. What blooms now in the vale's poisoned soil, not flowers, the afterimage of a god's absence, a void that hums. The arena was never stone, it was the first gasp of a world unmade, the prologue to every war to come. Aman'Thul's fist split the sky. Shaarj screamed as the Titan wrenched him from Azeroth's core, leaving a wound that bloomed into the vale of eternal blossoms. The earth wept, Chronicle Entry 17, *, the Well of Eternity was not built to power. It was a coffin of light, forged in the bones of the world to chain the old gods. * the others followed Zoth Thun and Zoth, and the nameless shattered into shards of shadow, thrust into the well's throat. But the bindings frayed, the Titans had no time, their war against the void left them bleeding, desperate. The well's surface mirrored a dying star, magic was never its gift. It was a scream, a pressure valve for the rot beneath. The world soul, that hollow husk, was the last seal, a placeholder. Chronicle Entry 9, * what we contained, we could not kill. What we could not kill, we buried in a lie. * the vale's flowers never wither, they pulse faintly like a heartbeat. The well's collapse was not betrayal, it was inevitability. Azeroth's skin stretched thin over a festering wound. The old gods did not escape, they were * unleashed *, and the Titans, they left warnings carved in stone. * we are not gods. We are caretakers of a grave that will open. *. The Well of Eternity was never a prison. It was a patch over a wound too old to name. The Titan's world soul, a desperate engineering cracked, magic bled, the land split, Kalimdor tore apart, mountains birthed from screaming stone, oceans heaved. Zoth stirred, its dreams leaking through the fractures. The sundering wasn't Azshara's doing, it was the well's final gasp, a containment failure. The old gods didn't break free, they were let out. The Titan's design hinged on a lie, that Azeroth could hold what should never have been born. The world soul was not a seal, it was a dam, and dams fail. When the well collapsed, it wasn't corruption that spilled, it was inevitability. The land scream became Zoth's lullaby. Its obsidian spires rose where the crust bled open. The sundering's chaos, a birth canal, they left no armies, no monuments. Only warnings, * we are not gods, * the Titans fled the weight of their own hubris. Their careful had always been a match to dry kindling. The well's collapse was not an accident. It was the universe correcting a mistake older than time, and now the old gods dream again, not in shadows. In the bones of the world itself. Kalimdor's shattered remnants drifted. The sundering did not end with Azshara's fall. It ended with a world unmade, its bones rearranged by forces older than the Titan's gaze. Beneath the roots of empires, the Black Empire's spires rust. Their obsidian shards pierce the earth, buried by time but not by design. The old gods did not need doors. They needed * hosts *. Their whispers seep through stone, through blood, through the curse of flesh, a sickness that bends mortality to their will. Xal'atath ascended not as a god, but as a * position *, a placeholder in the void left by the Well of Eternity's collapse. That wound, that failed prison, was never meant to hold the old gods, it was meant to * distract * them. A cosmic gambit to slow their rot while the Titans built their monuments, it held for epochs. Then Azshara's hubris cracked the shell. The well's true purpose was never magic's harnessing, it was a bandage on a festering wound. Now that wound bleeds anew, the old gods do not rule, they * infect *. Their influence lingers in every shadowed pact, every twisted birth, every civilization that digs too deep. The Black Empire's ruins are not relics, they are * incubators *. The cosmos does not remember, but flesh does, and flesh endures. The well's wound never healed, it bled into the world's marrow, and in that marrow the old gods dream. The Titans did not banish the old gods, they buried them, a wound, not a victory. The Well of Eternity was a suture hewn with Titan-forged flesh, threaded with the curse of flesh. It held, it bled, it failed. Azshara's hubris was a symptom, not the disease. The old gods slumbered beneath her pride, whispering through the marrow of the world. The Lich King bends to Yogg-Saron's will. Xal'atath thrives on ancient rot. The surviving highborn learned too late, containment is a lie. The sundering was a birth, Azeroth's scream as the old gods stretched their limbs. The well's collapse was no accident. It was a door, the Titans left a prison, not a shield. Their wound became a womb. What does a god do when buried alive? It becomes a parasite, it becomes a plague, it becomes the thing that waits. The thing that dreams, and in those dreams new vessels rise, new pacts are made, new worlds are unmade. The Pantheon's silence is an answer, their failure is a hymn. The old gods are not defeated, they are deferred. And every scar they leave is a promise. The well's collapse was no accident. Its crystalline veins still pulse in the veil of eternal blossoms, a festering graft where Titan-forged stone bleeds primordial ichor. Xal'atath, the war within celestial Leviathan, did not rise from void-touched ambition alone. Its form is a stitch in the same wound, a god-shaped void the Titans tried to sew shut. The veil's petals bloom in sickly hues, their perfume a dirge for the world soul's failed binding. The Titans carved Azeroth's crust to cage what they could not kill. The well was their aneurysma conduit of magic, so raw it became a second skin for the old gods. Azshara's fall was but a symptom, the true rot. The well's architecture, a lattice of Titan power that the old gods gnawed through like bone. Now Xal'atath's serpentine spire pierces the same strata, its ascent a mimicry of the Titans' failed surgery. The air there hums with dissonance, as if the land itself chokes on remembered pain. What does a scar become when the wound never closed? The veil's eternal spring is no rebirth, it is a holding pattern. The old gods do not return, they unfurl their influence seeping through every Titan-made fault line. The war within is not a new war, it is the same ancient ache, reknit into a different shape. And in the veil's heart where blossom and blood meet, the past breathes, the past hungers. The Titans did not banish the old gods, they buried them, a wound, not a victory. The well of eternity was a suture hewn with Titan-forged flesh, threaded with the curse of flesh. It held, it bled, it failed. Azshara's hubris was a symptom, not the disease. The old gods slumbered beneath her pride, whispering through the world's marrow. The Lich King bends to Yogg-Saron's will. Xal'atath thrives on ancient rot. The surviving highborn learned too late, containment is a lie. The sundering was a birth, Azeroth's scream as the old gods stretched their limbs. The well's collapse was no accident. It was a door, the Titans left a prison, not a shield. Their wound became a womb. What does a god do when buried alive? It becomes a parasite, it becomes a plague, it becomes the thing that waits. The thing that dreams, and in those dreams new vessels rise, new pacts are made, new worlds are unmade. The Pantheon's silence is an answer, their failure is a hymn. The old gods are not defeated, they are deferred. And every scar they leave is a promise. What other cosmic wounds have the Titans buried? The Black Empire's rise and its fall holds the answer. Long before Titans shaped Azeroth, its shadow thrived. A failed binding left a wound. The well's collapse was no accident. It was the old gods' escape, and the